My personal belief is the time we're living in is a golden age. How is this going to affect education in the future, especially as grandkids are coming down the road?
Do you see that a lot of overuse of AI is a problem?
I don't think it's a problem yet. I think we're still just in this early genesis of AI. You know, we didn't have cell phones when we were smaller. Well, now we have AI. It's going to be crazy in 10, 20 years where it is. And if we immediately try to put bounds on it, to regulate it, to restrict it, it's very hard to see what its potential is.
Welcome again to the Dialogues on World Digital Governance. Today, I have the pleasure of having with me Matt Fisher, who's Software Engineering Director at General Dynamics. Matt, welcome.
Thanks so much for having me, Ed. Pleasure to be here.
Well, Matt, first off, thanks for coming. But more importantly, what brought you here? What prompted you to think about world digital governance, and why is it important to you personally?
I was very interested when I just heard about it recently, the whole education side and education in AI. I have a background with 6 kids and we homeschooled, and now being on the computer science side and seeing how AI is just infiltrating everything, I have very much an interest in how am I going to apply this to the tutoring I do, how is this going to affect education in the future, especially as grandkids are coming down the road. So it's just like the amalgamation of the two ideas.
Wow, 6 kids, that must be keeping you really busy. Are you hoping that AI will somehow take some of the burden off you?
I wish it would grow my hair back. That would be the one thing for sure. But yeah, anything where it can help me save time and do, hobbies versus work, I am all for AI.
Have you been using it in your personal life right now or at the workplace?
Yeah, a couple of things. So one of my side projects I'm working on is an SAT math prep site. And what we're using is predictive analysis AI to help students determine how many tests they need to make until they hit their goals, how best to take tests, to auto-generate tests based on past performance and the goals that they have. Another way is when I'm still doing coding in my spare time, I'm one of those who's using ChatGPT to go ahead and help me with those tasks, especially of dealing with outlandish use cases that I just might not have seen for years, but it helps me get the job done.
On the one side, you're a user of AI. On the other side, I'm sure you're also seeing this, accelerated use and adoption in services and public services as well that you're using. And of course, in social media, where a lot of the social media content is being generated. Do you see that as a problem? Do you see that a lot of overuse of AI is a problem, or you don't see that as a problem?
I don't think it's a problem yet. I think we're still just in this early genesis of AI, what it's going to do, how it's going to affect us. I think it's too early to know that yet. I think right now I'd rather see lots of big, giant steps being taken into new ground so we can figure out the ways that AI is making life better. And if we immediately try to put bounds on it, to regulate it, to restrict it, it's very hard to see what its potential is. And again, just being a technologist, I always want to see how we can apply that. I mean, this idea of mashups, right? Putting 2, 3, 4 different technologies together, seeing something new come from that, and that new digital baby, and how it can make life better, simpler. My personal belief is the time we're living in is a golden age. We didn't have cell phones when we were smaller. Now we have AI. It's going to be crazy in 10, 20 years where it is. Yeah, it's just a great time. So I'm all for, I think it's going to be a good thing. It's a disruptor for sure, but let's see where it takes us. That's exciting.
So definitely there's this promise and this excitement around what AI can do for us. But obviously, as a parent, you must be also thinking about the future generation and what AI would mean for them and some of the concerns that you might have in that regard. Are there concerns that you have?
Again, growing up as an American, I think of free speech, I think of our rights, I think of there's already politicization around AI and its usage. There's been news articles about, show me a picture of the founding fathers, show me a picture of what a stereotypical Viking looks like, and then both sides of the internet erupt at what comes out of that. I want to make sure that both the ideas stay free, that they can do critical thinking, the Socratic method, to be able to work in a world where AI is going to be yet another component, but also changing the narrative and is able to play with facts because it's going to be one of your information sources. And then again, how much you trust it, what's the provenance on that data, and things that you and I briefly spoke about earlier.
Yeah, data provenance, that's a very, very important topic. Some of our earlier speakers also, talked about source of truth, kind of finding out the origin of the data. And that's usually hard. Even with search engines, it was kind of possible. You kind of click through and then go from one website to the other. Do you kind of finally reach the source of truth, or what do you believe to be the source of truth? Now, there are some, like GPT obviously doesn't let you follow through to the source of truth. But you have to just sort of, somehow believe that it's from an appropriate source. And so how do you sort of think of people sort of dealing with it in a future world where you may not always have access to the source of truth because these algorithms are trained over large corpuses of data, and it may not be even practically possible for you to see everything because there's so much data that's used to compute that response. How do you actually even validate it?
Oh, that's a great question. I think you have to have those sources. I think if you find you or have some sort of media or information source that's not providing those channels and where the data came from, I think it's problematic right there, because then how do you ever know whether you can trust this source or not? And you're always going to have some percentage of the population disputing what's being said or presented. So I think it's critical, like the problem they have right now with these large language models. They don't know how each model determines the answer that it's given you. They're working on seeing if they can reverse engineer. I think that's a critical area of science, because it would be nice to know that if we're going to trust so many areas of our lives, from aeronautics to how we learn, to how cars get driven, to how hospitals operate, we need to know where the data came from, how it's sourced, and again, trustworthiness. It's always going to go back to that first link, because it all builds from there.
Just in parting, as we kind of leave and wrap up our sessions here today, I want to get from you maybe a thought, something that you think really bothers you when it comes to the future of AI, something that you would like to see changed, or something that you think is missing.
I don't think there's necessarily anything missing yet. I think it's just continue to keep the field open. Let everyone play. Let's not restrict. I don't like monopolies, whether it's on thought or technology or avenues. Let's make sure the field can blossom, especially before policymakers get in there and start trying to twist it into knots or shape it or push it in a certain direction. I'm very much for this, exciting explosion, this revolution of AI. Let's see where it goes and give it time.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Matt, for joining us. We hope that you continue to participate in the World Digital Governance dialogues, and more to come.